I hadn't slept in 3 nights. The clock beside my bunk glowed 0:13 in red digits, but I didn't need it to tell me how long I'd been awake. The air in my barracks room felt thick, almost humming, like the silence before a thunderstorm. I stared at the ceiling fan turning slow circles, each rotation creaking faintly in the dark. Then came the sound, soft at first, almost polite. A knock. 3 times. No one knocked on barracks doors at 2 in the morning. I sat up, every nerve wired. Yeah? Nothing, just the hum of the bass outside, faint diesel engines somewhere in the distance. Another knock, harder this time. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. Only the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, stretching down the corridor like an empty tunnel. But there was something else. A faint smell in the air, sharp, metallic, almost like burnt wiring. Then my radio crackled to life behind me. Sergeant Cole, report to command briefing, Building 12, immediate. The voice was steady, clipped, too calm for the hour. I'd heard that tone before, the kind people use when they don't want to admit they're scared. By the time I threw on my uniform, I could already feel it, that weight in the gut that tells you this isn't just another drill. Fort Lewis never truly sleeps, but at 2:30 a.m. it feels like the world's heartbeat has slowed. The motor pool lamps burned in fog, vehicles sitting like ghosts. I walked fast through the cold air, boots crunching gravel, trying to ignore the sense that someone was walking just behind me. Every time I turned around, nothing. Inside the command building, the hum of the fluorescent lights was louder, a constant nervous whine. In the briefing room stood Captain Rhodes, arms crossed, expression unreadable. 4 folders sat on the table in front of him. He nodded when he saw me. Cole, where's your team? On their way, sir. As if summoned, the door opened. Carla Hayes strode in first, her hair pulled tight, eyes still sharp despite the hour. Behind her came Mason Reed, the medic, yawning and holding a steaming mug. Last was Dylan Ross, barely 21, always curious, always trying to prove he belonged. They looked like they'd been dragged from 3 different worlds and forced into the same one. Captain Rhodes didn't waste time. We've got an extraction in northern Idaho, Bitterroot Mountains near Clearwater Basin. Civilian survivor, female. Last contact 12 hours ago. Carla frowned. Civilian? Out there? What's she doing in that terrain? Unknown, Rhodes said. You'll get coordinates. Your orders are simple. Locate, secure, and transport. Command wants her back here by sunrise tomorrow. Mason leaned forward. Sir, that's a 12-hour drive minimum. Rhodes gave a thin smile. I'm aware. Air support's off the table. Weather system grounded the birds. You'll drive. He slid the folders toward us. Mission classified. You leave in 20 minutes. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. Too mechanical, too rehearsed. I'd heard that voice before missions that weren't meant to be talked about afterward. Carla scanned her folder, eyebrows knitting. There's nothing here, sir. No ID, no background, no reason for extraction. Rhodes met her eyes. You have everything you need. Dismissed. We walked out into the cold again. See, the air thick with fog and silence. Dylan broke it first. Since when does command send QRF teams for civilians? Isn't that search and rescue's job? Mason gave him a look. Since the brass decides it is. Don't think too hard, rookie. I didn't say anything. My gut told me the same thing Dylan was thinking. This wasn't a rescue, it was containment. We geared up fast. Standard loadout, M4s, medkits, GPS units, rations, extra fuel. I double-checked the Humvee's tires, trying to ignore how the fog seemed thicker now, like it had weight. Carla caught me looking at the tree line. You good, Sergeant? I nodded. Just tired. But that wasn't true. While the others loaded gear, I lit a cigarette behind the motor pool and stared into the mist. For a second, I thought I saw a shape there. Someone standing just beyond the light. A woman, maybe. Long hair, face pale. Then the fog shifted, and she was gone. I dropped the cigarette and ground it out. The convoy rolled out at 300 sharp, 2 Humvees, headlights slicing through the fog. Mason rode shotgun beside me. Carla and Dylan followed in the second vehicle. For the first hour, no one spoke. The highway out of Fort Lewis was empty except for freight trucks. The sky was a blank sheet of gray, the kind that never quite turns to daylight. Mason finally broke the silence. "You think it's a VIP? Some scientist or something?" "Could be," I said. "Rhodes said civilian survivor. Maybe a crash." "Yeah? Then where's the SAR team?" I didn't have an answer. After a while, Mason leaned his head back, closing his eyes. "You ever notice how these missions come up just when things start feeling normal?" I grinned faintly. "Normal's overrated." He chuckled, but there wasn't much humor in it. The GPS beeped softly every few minutes, marking our progress east. But as the miles passed, something strange happened. The estimated arrival time kept changing. One minute it said 6:40 a.m., the next 9:10, then 5:20, like time itself couldn't decide what it wanted to be. I tapped the screen. "You seeing this?" Mason leaned over. "Probably bad satellite connection." "Maybe." But the signal bars were full. By sunrise, we'd crossed into Idaho. The sky was pink over the mountain ridges, snow dusting the peaks like powdered sugar. It should have been beautiful, but the air smelled faintly metallic again, the same scent I'd noticed in the hallway earlier. We stopped in a small town called Elk Bend to refuel. It looked like something out of a forgotten postcard. One diner, one gas station, a church, and nothing else. As I filled the tank, an old man came out of the station's office, wiping his hands on a rag. He wore a faded Vietnam vet cap and squinted at our vehicles. "Army boys, huh?" "Something like that," I said. He spat into the dirt. "Where you headed?" "Bitterroot Mountains. Got a pickup near Clearwater Basin." The man's hand froze mid-wipe. His expression changed, something between confusion and fear. "Ain't nothing up there but ghosts." I forced a smile. "We'll take our chances." He nodded slowly. "You do that." Then softer. "If you make it back, you remember what I said." When I rejoined the others, Mason raised an eyebrow. "Local ghost stories." "Something like that." As we pulled away, I looked in the side mirror. The old man still stood there, watching us until we disappeared around the bend. Hours passed. The roads turned from asphalt to gravel, then to dirt. Pines grew thick around us, their branches heavy with snow. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind, not even the usual hum of insects. By early afternoon, fog started rolling in again. Carla's voice came through the radio. "Visibility dropping. You sure these coordinates are right?" "Copy," I said. "Stay tight." We pressed on. The fog thickened until the world shrank to the beam of our headlights. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Mason checked the GPS again. "Still another 50 miles. Feels longer," he nodded. "Ever get the feeling we're driving in circles?" He wasn't wrong. The same rock outcroppings, same dead trees. They kept appearing like we were looping through a film reel. At one point, Dylan's voice crackled through. "Hey, anyone else hearing music?" "Negative," I said. "Check your radio." "Already did. It's off." The line went silent. Mason looked at me. "Music? Could be cross-frequency interference." "Yeah," he muttered. "Or ghosts." We made camp just before dusk near a dried riverbed. Fog swirled between the trees like smoke. Carla handled perimeter checks while Dylan set up a small fire. The warmth helped, but not much. The forest felt too still, as if holding its breath. Mason passed around instant coffee. "So, Sergeant, what's your gut say?" I sipped the bitter brew. "It says something's not right." Dylan poked at the fire. "You think the brass knows more than they're telling us?" "They always do." Carla returned from patrol, shaking her head. "Nothing but trees and fog. GPS says we're within 20 miles. "Close enough to make me uneasy," Mason said. We sat in silence for a while, watching the flames. Somewhere deep in the trees, a branch cracked. Dylan looked up. "Did you hear that?" Carla drew her sidearm. "Probably deer." But we all knew it wasn't. The sound was too deliberate, too human. I motioned for quiet and grabbed my rifle. The four of us moved toward the tree line, flashlights cutting through the mist. Nothing. Just fog and the faint shimmer of frost on pine needles. Then Dylan whispered, "There." Something moved behind a tree, a flicker of white fabric. I raised my weapon. "Identify yourself." Silence. We edged closer. The beam of my light hit the tree, then the ground beyond it. Nothing there, but the dirt was disturbed. Footprints, bare feet, leading deeper into the woods. Carla swore under her breath. "Barefoot, in this cold." Mason crouched, running a hand along one print. "Small, female." My radio crackled again, a burst of static followed by a whisper I couldn't make out. Then it cut dead. I looked at my team. Back to camp, now. The rest of the night passed in uneasy silence. No one slept. I took first watch, staring at the fog until my eyes burned. Just before dawn, I saw her again. Or thought I did. Across the riverbed, maybe 30 yards away, a woman stood in the mist. Long hair, white clothes. She wasn't moving. I blinked, and she was gone. By morning, everyone was on edge. Mason said he hadn't slept at all. Carla packed fast, double-checking weapons. Dylan looked pale, jittery. We broke camp and followed the GPS toward the coordinates. The forest thinned as the road began to climb. The last marker brought us to a narrow pass overlooking a valley filled with fog. The GPS beeped and flashed a message I'd never seen before. "Arrival confirmed." Mason frowned. "Confirmed where? I don't see anything." Then the fog shifted and we saw it. Down in the valley stood a structure made of glass and metal, sunlight glinting off its surface. Too modern to be abandoned, too clean to be forgotten. Carla breathed out. "What the hell is that?" No one answered. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with altitude, because deep down I knew, whatever we were here to rescue, it was waiting for us, and it already knew our names. That was the moment I should have called it in. That was the moment we should have turned back. But orders are orders. We started down the valley, and that's where everything went wrong. The descent into the valley felt endless. The dirt road was narrow, half swallowed by mist, twisting through pine shadows that seemed to move when we weren't looking. The glass building below shimmered faintly through the fog, as if the light itself bent around it. Mason's voice broke the silence. "That thing looks brand new. You seeing that shine?" Carla's voice came through the radio, calm but taut. "Copy that. Doesn't make sense. Satellite imagery shows no structures here." I checked my GPS again. The screen flickered, coordinates pulsing between numbers. It wasn't just the map glitching. The battery indicator shifted from 87% to 4%, then back to full in seconds. "Electromagnetic interference," Mason muttered. "Could explain the static we've been hearing." "Interference from what?" Dylan's voice crackled. "There's no cell coverage for 30 miles. No one answered. We rolled closer, and the fog grew thicker, swallowing the vehicles in a soft, gray cocoon. The trees ended abruptly, and suddenly we were driving onto an old asphalt clearing, the remains of a parking area, long cracked and overgrown. In the center stood the structure we'd seen from above. It wasn't big, maybe 3 stories tall, built almost entirely of glass and steel beams. The glass wasn't reflective. It absorbed light like tinted water. No sign of power, no hum of generators, yet every pane glowed faintly from within. Mason stared. Jesus, who builds this out here? Command said decommissioned research site, Carla said. Looks more like a damn embassy. I killed the engine. The air was still, heavy. Even the birds had gone silent. All right, I said, voice low. Standard entry formation. Mason, you're on point. Carla, flank, Dylan, rear. We approached on foot, rifles up. The glass doors were closed but not locked. When I touched the handle, it was cold. Too cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer. Stack up, I whispered. On my signal, Mason pushed the door open. It swung inward with a soft hiss. Inside, silence. The floor gleamed, dustless, untouched. Long corridors branched off into darkness. Faint lights pulsed along the walls in rhythmic patterns, slow, steady, like breathing. This place shouldn't have power, Mason said. Check for backup generators, I replied. Dylan, record everything. We moved deeper. Our boots echoed faintly, swallowed by the building's stillness. There were no signs of struggle, no damage, no footprints, except for one set of bare feet leading down a hallway toward a staircase. Carla saw them first. Same prints from last night. I nodded. We follow them. The stairs descended into a sublevel. The air grew colder with each step, our breath visible in the flashlight beams. At the bottom was a wide hall lined with observation windows. Behind the glass, empty rooms filled with old lab equipment. Oscilloscopes, broken computers, glass jars with labels too faded to read. Then we heard it, a hum, low, vibrating through the floor, pulsing with that same rhythm as the lights above. Source? I asked. Below us, Mason said, crouching to touch the concrete. Feels alive. We moved cautiously. The hallway opened into a large chamber filled with metal columns and a single containment pod in the center, sealed behind glass. Dylan's camera light flickered. This thing's recording weird static, like something's broadcasting on the same frequency. Carla stepped closer to the glass. Ethan, there's someone inside. She was right. A figure lay within the pod, female, motionless, eyes closed. Tubes ran from her arms into the walls. Before we could react, the overhead lights flared. The pod door slid open with a hiss. The woman sat up slowly, her eyes opened, gray, unfocused, ancient. She blinked once, twice, then whispered, voice soft as air. You came. We froze. I raised my weapon instinctively. Ma'am, don't move. Identify yourself. She tilted her head, studying me like she recognized my voice. Ethan Cole, she said softly. You finally made it. Every muscle in my body locked. How do you know my name? Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Because you told me. Dylan stepped back, whispering, What the hell does that mean? I couldn't answer. I didn't even know. We got her out of the pod, wrapped in a thermal blanket, and guided her upstairs. Her skin was cold, almost translucent, but her breathing was steady. She said her name was Dr. Eleanor Price, and she'd been stationed here decades ago as part of a government research division. Project Resonance, she said between shivers. It began in 1954. They were studying the frequencies of the Earth's magnetic field, trying to harness them for communication beyond range. Communication with what? Carla asked. Not what, Eleanor replied quietly. When? Her words hung in the air like smoke. Mason gave me a look that said, We need to get out now, but leaving wasn't simple. The road behind us had changed. Literally. When we stepped outside, the clearing looked different. The tire tracks from our convoy were gone, replaced by undisturbed frost. The trees stood in new patterns as if rearranged overnight. Dylan swore. GPS isn't even reading coordinates anymore. It says we're off-grid. Eleanor watched the fog shift across the valley. Time doesn't flow the same here, she murmured. It folds. That's what the research discovered. Mason snapped, Lady, whatever this is, it's way above our clearance level. She smiled faintly. You're right, but clearance doesn't matter anymore. We regrouped in the Humvees. I made the call, get her out, head west, report en route. But the moment we started the engines, the air outside began to hum again, low, deep, vibrating through metal. Every compass spun wildly, the horizon blurred like heat distortion. Carla shouted over the noise. We need to move now. The vehicles lurched forward, tires spinning on wet gravel. The forest closed in, trees seeming closer than before. The hum grew louder, merging with a faint whispering that wasn't wind. I glanced at Eleanor in the rear seat. She wasn't afraid. She was calm, too calm. Eleanor, I shouted, what's happening? Her eyes were distant, almost glowing. You woke it up. Woke what up? The frequency, the echo. Then, as suddenly as it began, the hum stopped. Silence fell, crushing and absolute. Mason exhaled shakily. Jesus Christ, what was that? I didn't answer. I just kept driving. By nightfall, we were back near the ridge. The fog trailed behind us like a living thing. We made camp at a rest stop that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't marked on any map. The lights flickered when we approached, powered by a generator that looked decades old, but ran flawlessly. Dylan sat apart from the fire, staring at the camera. The footage from earlier, half of it's gone. It's like something erased it while we were recording. Mason frowned. You sure it wasn't corrupted? Dylan shook his head. It's not that, it's clean, like it was never filmed at all. Carla poured coffee, her hands trembling. Ethan, we need to call this in. I've tried. Radio's dead. Satellite uplink won't hold a signal. Eleanor sat quietly by the fire, wrapped in a blanket, staring into the flames. You can't call anyone, she said softly. They can't hear you from here. Dylan looked up. From here? What do you mean? She met his eyes. Because here isn't where you think it is. Mason laughed nervously. Great. We picked up a philosopher. But something in her voice made me believe her. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I stood watch by the fire, scanning the trees. Every shadow looked alive. Every gust of wind carried whispers. Eleanor spoke behind me, quiet enough to make me jump. You've seen it, haven't you? I turned. Seen what? The reflection that doesn't move when you do. I stared at her. What are you talking about? She smiled faintly. You will. Then she lay back down and closed her eyes. Morning came gray and silent. When Mason checked the vehicles, he found something strange. The fuel gauges full, even though we'd used half a tank. The license plates were clean, too clean, as if freshly issued. I told the team to load up. No one spoke during the first hour. The road wound higher into the mountains. Then, through the trees, we saw movement. A figure on the roadside, waving. Civilian, Carla said. Doesn't look like it, Mason replied. As we slowed, the figure came into view. An army uniform, old-style Vietnam-era patches. The man saluted as we stopped. His face was pale, eyes hollow. I stepped out cautiously. You need help, soldier? He stared at me for a long time before answering. You're not supposed to be here. Who are you? He blinked slowly. I used to be you. Then he turned and walked into the trees. Carla whispered, What the hell? We tried following, but there were no footprints. No sign he'd ever been there. That's when the storm hit. Fog thickened. Lightning flashed without thunder. The world seemed to flicker between frames like a skipping film reel. The road split ahead, one branch leading west, another curving down toward a dark ravine. The GPS blinked, alternating between both routes. Which way? Carla shouted. Eleanor leaned forward. Follow the echo. Before I could ask what that meant, the compass spun again. and the Humvee's lights dimmed. We chose west. The storm followed. Hours blurred together, time meaningless. We drove through landscapes that seemed to rearrange when we looked away, the same bridge twice, the same fallen tree reappearing miles apart. Eleanor spoke only once more, almost a whisper lost in static. "It's not the valley that's lost, it's you." We stopped near dusk. Mason was shaking, skin pale. "Ethan, I swear to God I saw my wife on the roadside back there. She's been dead for 3 years. Dylan's eyes were glassy. "I heard someone humming over the radio, my mom's lullaby." Carla clenched her fists. "We need to keep it together," but I could feel it too, that slipping sense of reality. Memories felt closer than moments. The air itself seemed to pulse, syncing with our heartbeats. I thought of the woman in the fog, the one who'd been waiting, and I began to wonder if this mission had ever been about rescuing anyone at all. We drove on until night swallowed the road again. The last thing I remember from that day was looking in the rearview mirror and seeing the old man from the gas station sitting in the back seat. Only this time he wasn't wearing a hat, and his eyes were the same gray as Eleanor's. Morning came thin and colorless. The storm had passed, but the fog still clung to the valley like breath on glass. None of us spoke while we checked the vehicles. Every sound felt amplified: the slam of a door, the click of a rifle safety, the scrape of boots on gravel. Eleanor stood a few yards away, staring toward the ridge we'd just descended. Her expression was unreadable, calm to the point of eerie. The light caught her eyes in a way that made them look silver. "Eleanor," I called, "we're moving out. You said the facility was decommissioned. Is there another exit route?" She turned slowly. "There is always another way out," she said. "But it doesn't always lead back." Dylan muttered, "That's comforting." Mason checked the compass again. Still useless. North keeps shifting. Carla looked at me. "We need to retrace. If we can reach higher ground, maybe the radios will catch a signal." I nodded, but my mind kept drifting to what the soldier on the roadside had said. "You're not supposed to be here." We started west, climbing through terrain that felt unfamiliar even though we'd just driven it. The forest looked rearranged. Fallen trees lay in new positions. Stones seemed freshly split. Every step gave the sense that the land itself was rewriting its own map. Halfway up the slope, Dylan's voice broke the quiet. "Sarge, check this out." He pointed to a half-buried sign, U.S. Geological Survey Research Site 04. Authorized personnel only. Rust had eaten the letters, but beneath it was a date, 1956. Mason frowned. "That can't be right. This metal would have rusted clean through decades ago." Eleanor brushed soil from the edge of the sign, almost tenderly. "Time doesn't rot the same way here." Carla exhaled sharply. "Enough riddles. Who are you, really?" For the first time, Eleanor's calm cracked. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try us," I said. She studied me for a long moment. "We were testing resonance frequencies beneath the mountain. We found one that responded, a harmonic that mirrors consciousness. When we transmitted it, the signal came back. And with it, something else." "What kind of something?" Mason asked. Eleanor looked past him toward the fog. "It listens." We reached the ridge by midday. The sun should have been overhead, but the light was weak, filtered through layers of cloud that moved against the wind. The radio hissed with faint static, our first contact in hours. Carla adjusted the dial. "Fort Lewis Command, this is Echo 7. Do you read?" Only the faintest whisper came back, like breath over a microphone. Then a voice, my own, played through the speaker. "Do you read?" Everyone froze. Dylan's hand shook. That's your voice, Sarge." I took the handset. "Command, repeat, identify transmission." The voice answered again, identical to mine. "Turn around." Static swallowed the rest. Mason stared at the radio like it might bite him. "We're leaving, now." We loaded up, but when I turned the ignition, the dashboard lights flared, then dimmed. The engine coughed twice before starting. The radio stayed dead. Carla glanced at Eleanor. "Did your project do this to the terrain, the whatever distortion this is?" Eleanor's gaze was distant. "It isn't distortion, it's overlap. Layers of time pressing together until they bleed." Dylan whispered, "So we're trapped in a time loop." She smiled faintly. "Not trapped, invited." That word sent a shiver through me. We followed the dirt track down the opposite side of the ridge and came upon another structure, smaller, half collapsed, but unmistakably part of the same facility. Its glass walls were shattered, revealing corridors filled with snow and debris. We dismounted cautiously. The air smelled of ozone and rust. Inside, the floor sloped downward into a corridor lit by faint blue light seeping from beneath the walls. Carla went first, weapon ready. "Anyone else getting déjà vu?" I nodded. "Same design as the main complex." Mason tapped his helmet cam. "Recording, just in case this place decides to disappear behind us." We moved room to room. Abandoned labs, broken consoles, yellowed paperwork, scattered like fallen leaves. On one desk lay a single reel-to-reel recorder, still intact. A label read, "Session 47, Dr. E. Price." Dylan hooked it to a portable power pack. The tape crackled to life. "Subject demonstrates awareness of overlapping frequencies. Attempt 12 will proceed at 14 hours. Should containment fail, initiate lock sequence and evacuate personnel immediately." The voice was unmistakably Eleanor's, only younger. Eleanor listened without emotion. "I told them not to continue after attempt 10. Carla turned to her. "How are you even alive? This tape is from the 50s. Eleanor's reply was almost a whisper. "Maybe I'm not." Outside, thunder rolled across the valley, though the sky showed no storm clouds. Mason leaned against the doorway, staring toward the distant glass complex we'd left behind. "Ethan, we need to decide. Are we escorting her out, or are we part of whatever this experiment still is?" Before I could answer, Dylan's voice called from inside. "Sarge, you need to see this." He was in a small side room lit by a single flickering monitor. On the screen was live footage, the four of us standing in the same room, watching ourselves from a slightly different angle. "What the—" Mason stepped forward. The image looped, repeating our movements a few seconds behind reality. Then the version of me on the screen turned its head and stared straight into the camera, and smiled. The image froze on that smile, my own face caught between recognition and mockery. Then the screen went black with a pop of static that echoed off the metal walls. Mason slammed the monitor's side. "What kind of feed was that?" "A delay?" "No signal input," Dylan whispered, scrolling through the console. "The camera doesn't exist. The system isn't even powered." Carla's hand rested on her rifle. "So how did it record us?" Eleanor spoke softly, as if explaining to a child. "It wasn't recording, it was remembering." I turned on her. "Enough riddles. What's happening here?" She looked almost sad. "The resonance you feel, the hum, the way time bends. It stores impressions. When you entered, the field began replaying itself through you. You're inside its memory now." Dylan stepped back from the console. "If this place remembers us, what happens when it forgets?" Eleanor's eyes met his. "Then you cease to exist in its version of events." Mason exhaled sharply. "That's it. We're done. We get topside. We find any damn road. And we keep driving until something looks normal." He turned toward the exit, but a loud metallic groan stopped him. The doorway had sealed, thick steel sliding from above, locking with a hiss. Carla checked the control panel beside it. Manual overrides fused. Someone or something wants us in here. The temperature dropped fast, our breath fogged. The blue lights along the floor flickered faster, pulsing in sync with a deep rumble beneath our feet. Eleanor whispered, "It's waking again." We moved deeper into the structure, following the emergency lights toward what appeared to be another control room. The hall narrowed, walls slick with condensation. Somewhere ahead, water dripped in a steady rhythm that matched the pulsing light. I reached a junction and stopped. "You hear that?" A faint voice carried through the vents. It sounded like Mason, only distant, echoing. "Ethan, behind you." I spun. Nothing. Mason stood 3 feet away, eyes wide. "Wasn't me," Carla muttered. "We're getting echoes now." Dylan recorded everything, the red light on his camera blinking steadily. "At least Command will see this footage, if we ever get it out." We found the control room at the end of the corridor. Half the consoles were dead, but one screen glowed faintly, showing a rotating diagram labeled Frequency Containment Matrix. Numbers scrolled faster than we could read. Eleanor approached, touching the glass with one trembling hand. "They never shut it down," she said. "After the last incident, they sealed me inside to stabilize the field. My body stopped aging, but I was never free." "You're telling us you've been alive in that pod since the 50s? Carla asked. Eleanor nodded once. "Alive is the wrong word. Preserved, maybe. Bound." She tapped a key sequence and the diagram expanded into a wireframe model of the facility. Lines extended outward like veins, reaching miles underground. Mason pointed. "Those look like tunnels." "Conduits," Eleanor corrected. "They transmit the resonance across layers of time." Dylan frowned. "Layers? Meaning what? Parallel timelines?" "Not parallel," she said. "Stacked. Each moment is another floor in a building you can't see." The concept made my stomach twist. "And if those floors collapse?" Eleanor looked up at me. "Then everything built on them falls too." A shrill tone cut through the room. The containment diagram flashed red. "Integrity failure, node C." The floor shuddered. Somewhere deep below, metal tore like paper. Carla steadied herself. "Ethan, we need to get out now." Eleanor shook her head. "If you leave while the Matrix destabilizes, you'll never find the same exit twice. It'll keep folding." Mason barked, "Then fix it." Eleanor's calm returned. "I can, but I need someone to go to the core with me." Everyone looked at me. "Of course." "Carla," I said, "you and Mason guard the vehicles. If we're not back in 2 hours, drive west until you hit daylight. Don't look back." Mason's jaw tightened. "You're really trusting her?" I hesitated. "She hasn't lied yet." That wasn't true, and we both knew it, but it was enough to move. The corridor to the core sloped downward, deeper than any sub-level we'd seen. The walls shimmered faintly like heat waves in reverse, cold, radiating outward instead of in. Eleanor carried a small device that pulsed in rhythm with the floor. "It's aligning," she said. "Aligning with what?" She smiled thinly. "With you." We reached a vast circular chamber. In the center hung a column of light, bright enough to hurt the eyes, spinning slowly within a glass cylinder. The hum we'd felt since entering the valley came from here, a living vibration that seemed to breathe. Eleanor approached it with reverence. "This is the core frequency. It resonates with human consciousness. Every thought, every fear, every secret you bury, this field amplifies them." I stepped closer. "That's what the voices are, isn't it? Our own minds reflected back." She nodded. "Reflected, magnified, sometimes twisted." The light flared suddenly, and for an instant I saw shapes moving inside. Human silhouettes, countless, flickering in and out like trapped shadows. I stumbled back. What are those? Echoes, Eleanor whispered. People who entered resonance and never came out. A low rumble shook the floor again. The containment cylinder cracked along one edge, releasing a faint hiss. Eleanor handed me the device. Hold this steady. If it drops below 90 hertz, we're both gone. What does it do? It convinces the field we still belong to this moment. That answer did nothing to calm me. She began typing commands into the console. Sparks flew from a panel overhead. The hum deepened, turning into a throbbing bass that rattled my chest. Through the shimmer of light, I saw a figure forming. Someone stepping out from the radiance. It was me. Same uniform, same face, but older. The copy spoke in my voice. You don't belong here. Eleanor didn't look up. Ignore it. But I couldn't. The figure smiled, the same smile I'd seen on the monitor earlier. It whispered, "You already failed once." The frequency monitor in my hand dipped, 89 hertz. "Eleanor," I shouted, "focus!" She snapped, slamming her hand on the console. "Keep it steady." The older version of me reached out through the shimmer. Its hand passed through the air like smoke, but where the fingers brushed my arm, the skin burned ice cold. I stumbled, gripping the device tighter. What happens if it touches me? Eleanor's voice cracked for the first time. Then there'll be two of you, and neither will be real. The thing wearing my face tilted its head, studying me like a hunter deciding when to strike. Its eyes shimmered with the same silver glow that lived in the heart of the core. "Why are you showing me this?" I shouted over the hum. "What do you want?" Eleanor didn't look up from the console. "It's not showing you anything. It's trying to replace you. The field can't hold two versions of the same mind." The doppelganger smiled. "You never told her what happened in Kabul." A flash tore through me. Sand, smoke, the sound of screaming. I stumbled, vision tunneling. For an instant, I smelled gunpowder and blood. "Ethan!" Eleanor grabbed my arm. "Stay present." The light surged again, burning white. The copy stepped closer, half dissolving in the glare. I could feel its breath, cold, metallic. "Let me fix it," it whispered. "You can rest." Instinct took over. I swung the frequency device like a weapon and slammed it against the cylinder. The sound that followed wasn't a crack or a shatter. It was a note, deep and perfect, that rolled through the chamber and up into my bones. The echo of myself screamed and dissolved into mist. The hum collapsed into silence. For a moment, the only sound was our breathing. Then the core pulsed once more and stabilized, quiet, steady, as if nothing had happened. Eleanor exhaled. "You did it. The field's closing." I dropped to one knee, shaking. "What was that thing?" She hesitated. "A version of you the resonance remembered. It wanted you to trade places. That's how it survives, by rewriting the people who enter." The admission chilled me worse than the cold. "And you've been living with that for 70 years? Her eyes met mine. "Not living, guarding. Every time it stirs, someone comes looking. I keep them from becoming part of it." A distant explosion cut her off. Metal grinding, alarms blaring up the corridor. Carla's voice came through my radio, broken by static. "Ethan, Mason's gone. He stepped into the fog and—" The line died. Eleanor's face went pale. "It's spreading again. The resonance is moving beyond containment." "Then we get out," I said. We ran back up the tunnel, light flickering behind us. The air felt thick, heavy with vibration. As we burst into daylight, the glass building below was glowing from within, every window alive with silver fire. Carla stood by the Humvee, weapon raised, eyes wide with disbelief. "Where's Mason?" I asked. She shook her head. "He walked toward the trees. I tried to stop him. He said someone was calling his name." Eleanor looked toward the valley. "If we leave now, we might still make it out before it folds again." The wind picked up. carrying a faint whisper through the pines. My own voice, distant and pleading. Don't leave me here. I forced the gear shift into drive. Too late, I said. We're already gone. The road snaked upward through fog so dense it felt solid. The Humvee's engine growled, tires grinding on gravel that sounded too loud in the quiet. Carla rode beside me, knuckles white on her rifle. Eleanor sat in back, her face turned toward the window, watching the glow fade behind us. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Dylan's voice came through the radio from the second vehicle. Sarge, I think the road's repeating. Same mile marker twice. I checked the GPS. The screen showed a straight line, looping back onto itself like a snake eating its tail. Eleanor said softly, "It's the resonance closing in. It folds distance first, then time." Carla turned on her. "You said we could get out." "I said maybe," Eleanor replied. "It depends on what it wants." "What it wants," Carla snapped. "You make it sound alive." Eleanor's eyes reflected the passing light. "It is. You gave it form the moment you came looking for me." A chill crawled up my spine. "You're saying this thing needed us?" She nodded. "The field was fading. It feeds on observation, on being seen. Every rescue team that comes renews it for another generation." Dylan's voice came back, panicked. "Sarge, stop. The bridge ahead. It's not real." I slammed the brakes. The fog parted just enough to show a narrow wooden span hanging over a canyon. From a distance, it looked solid. Up close, the planks shimmered, half transparent. Carla stared. "If that's an illusion, what happens when we drive across?" "We don't," I said. "We walk." Dylan joined us. Trembling, "I tossed a rock. It just vanished halfway." Eleanor stepped forward, calm as always. "It's a resonance projection. If we match its frequency, we can cross." "How?" I demanded. She reached for my wrist, pressing my palm against the small device I'd carried from the core. "This remembers the right tone. Keep it steady." I didn't trust her, but there was no other choice. We moved one by one onto the bridge. The boards beneath my boots felt weightless, humming faintly. The canyon below was endless fog, shifting with faint flashes of light. Halfway across, Dylan looked down and screamed. His body blurred, flickering between frames like bad film. Carla lunged for him, but her hand passed straight through his arm. "Keep your eyes forward," Eleanor shouted. "If you look down, it sees you." I grabbed Carla and forced her ahead. We ran the last yards until solid ground met our boots again. When I turned, the bridge and Dylan were gone. Only fog remained. Carla dropped to her knees. "He was just a kid." Eleanor's voice was quiet. "He's part of it now. His image will call the next team." That sentence hit me harder than gunfire. "How many teams before us?" She looked away. "Too many." Lightning flashed somewhere behind the clouds, lighting the valley like a photograph. For an instant, I saw the glass house again, shining from within. Figures moving behind its walls, hundreds of them, all waving as if in greeting. And at the center, I thought I saw Mason. The fire behind us should have died out by dawn, but it never did. When the sun finally pushed through the fog, the valley still glowed, silver light beating like a heart. The sight clung to my mind even as we drove away, winding through miles of forest that felt foreign despite being the same road we'd taken in. Carla sat silent beside me, her face hollowed by exhaustion. She hadn't spoken since Dylan vanished. I didn't press. Grief had a sound of its own, and right now that sound was the hum of the tires on frozen dirt. Eleanor rode in the back, calm as always, eyes half closed as though listening to something only she could hear. "How far to the nearest town?" Carla finally asked. "About 90 miles, I said, "if the map still means anything." "It has to," she whispered. "I need something that's real." The road narrowed between cliffs. the sky opening to a flat gray stretch ahead. My GPS blinked back to life, a weak signal holding steady for the first time in hours. I exhaled, almost laughing. "We're out," I said. "We're actually—" The radio crackled, a man's voice. "Echo 7, status report." Carla grabbed the handset. "Command, this is Echo 7. Do you read? We need immediate evac. Coordinates—" Static swallowed the transmission. Then the same voice repeated, tone identical, phrasing identical. "Echo 7, status report." It wasn't a replay. The rhythm was off, words spaced like someone trying to imitate speech. Eleanor leaned forward. "Don't answer." Carla froze. "It's command." "It's the field," Eleanor said. "It learned your voices." The radio clicked off on its own. I tossed it to the floor. "We drive in silence." For the next hour, we did. Pines blurred into endless green. Every few miles, the air smelled faintly metallic again. Then we reached the sign for a gas station, Haven Creek, next exit 2 miles, the first man-made thing we'd seen in what felt like forever. "Thank God," Carla murmured. The station looked ordinary. Rusted pumps, convenience store, a flickering open sign. An old country song hummed from a speaker near the door. I stepped inside. The clerk looked up, a middle-aged woman with bright red lipstick and tired eyes. "Rough night?" she asked. "Long one," I said. "3 coffees, some gas, and a phone if you have it." She smiled, slow and practiced. "Sure, sugar, phones are in the back." While she poured coffee, I walked past the aisles. Everything looked untouched, dust-free, labels crisp like the shelves had just been stocked. But every expiration date read July 1956. My stomach turned. "Carla," I called quietly, "look at this." She joined me, scanning the shelves. "That's impossible." Eleanor stepped through the doorway then, stopping beside us. "Not impossible," she said. "We never left." The clerk's voice floated from behind the counter. "Coffee's ready, Sergeant Cole." I froze. I hadn't told her my name. I turned slowly. The woman behind the counter smiled as though we were old friends. The red lipstick looked freshly painted, but her hands trembled around the coffee pot. Carla whispered, "You told her your name?" I shook my head. Eleanor's voice was low. "Ask her what year it is." The clerk's eyes flicked toward her, then back to me. "Oh, it's the same year it's always been," she said. "You folks look tired. Road gets long out here, doesn't it?" Something in her tone, like a recording played too slowly, set my teeth on edge. Carla raised her weapon. "Ma'am, we just need the phone." The woman nodded. Sure, it's right there." She pointed to a rotary phone hanging on the wall beside the candy rack. The cord dangled loose, cut clean through. "Try it anyway," Eleanor murmured. I lifted the receiver. Static filled my ear, but beneath it came a faint hum, the same frequency we'd felt in the valley. Then a whisper, my own voice again. "You can't drive away from yourself, Ethan." I dropped the phone. "We're leaving." The clerk's smile didn't fade. "Don't get lost now." Outside, the air felt heavier, thicker. The world had that shimmer again, like heat on asphalt. The highway stretched out straight ahead, but the sun no longer sat where it should. It hung too low, too red, frozen just above the tree line. Carla climbed into the passenger seat, muttering, "This is a nightmare." Eleanor sat behind us, staring at the coffee cup she'd carried out. The steam rose upward, then stopped midair, drifting sideways like smoke caught in windless space. "It's trying to anchor us," she said. "Every time we push farther, it rebuilds something familiar to keep us inside." "So how do we break through?" I asked. She hesitated. "We might not, but sometimes it lets one of us go to carry the memory." "Why?" Carla asked. Eleanor looked out the window. "Because remembering keeps it alive." The implication hit like a punch. So every survivor brings it home, she finished. I stared at the road ahead. Not this time. We drove until the gas station vanished in the mirrors. The highway rose into foothills where the pines thinned and snow patches glimmered under a dying sun. I kept my eyes on the asphalt, counting mile markers that repeated 47, 47, 47. Carla rubbed her temples. You see that? She asked. A sign appeared ahead. Haven Creek, next exit 2 miles. The same one. Eleanor whispered, It's looping us. I slammed the brakes. Then we changed the pattern. Carla frowned. How? By doing what it doesn't expect. I turned the Humvee off the road, tires crunching over brush toward a narrow service trail climbing west. Branches scraped metal. Behind us, the world seemed to warp, the road twisting, folding in on itself like film burning in a projector. Eleanor gripped the seat. It won't like this. Good, I said. For the first time since the mission began, I wasn't following orders. I was running on instinct, the only thing the resonance couldn't predict. Behind us, thunder rolled, though the sky was clear, and somewhere deep in that sound, I thought I heard Dylan's voice calling my name again. The trail narrowed fast, little more than twin ruts cut into frozen earth. Branches slapped the windshield, pine needles raining across the hood. I drove by instinct now, no GPS, no radio, only the feel of the terrain under the tires. Carla braced herself against the dash. You know where this goes? Nowhere, I said. That's the point. Eleanor sat perfectly still in back. You're challenging a map that doesn't belong to you. Then maybe it'll lose track of us. For a while, it worked. The trees thinned, revealing stretches of open ground. I saw the sky again, real blue for the first time in days. My chest loosened. The hum in my ears faded. Maybe, just maybe, we were clear. Then Carla tapped my arm. Ethan, stop. Ahead, in the middle of the trail, stood a road sign, new, gleaming, the metal untouched by rust. Welcome to Fort Lewis. We stared at it in disbelief. That's impossible, I said. Eleanor's tone was almost gentle. Not impossible. The resonance adapts. It builds what you most expect to find. Carla's voice cracked. It's copying the base. If it's copying the base, then where does it end? Eleanor looked at the horizon. When it reaches the world, you left. I shifted into reverse. Not happening. But before the Humvee moved, a shadow crossed the windshield. Someone stepped into the trail. Helmet, fatigues, rifle slung low. A soldier. Carla whispered, That's Mason. He was grinning, casual, as if nothing had happened. You left me behind, he said. Mason, I called, stay where you are. We're getting you out. He shook his head. You already did. The sound that followed wasn't laughter or crying. It was both. Then his body flickered like a bad transmission and vanished into the air, leaving only footprints smoking in the frost. Carla swore under her breath. He's part of it now. The sky dimmed. Clouds moved against the wind again, racing backward. The temperature plunged. Eleanor pressed a hand to the window, whispering numbers, frequencies, maybe prayers. What are you doing? I asked. Listening, she said. It's spreading faster than I thought. How far? Her answer chilled me. It doesn't have distance anymore. Once you've seen it, you're already inside. Carla grabbed her by the collar. Then how do we stop it? Eleanor didn't flinch. We don't. But sometimes we can choose where it ends. Meaning what? She met my eyes. Meaning someone has to go back and close it from within. The words hung in the cab like smoke. I looked at Carla. She shook her head immediately. No one's going back. The wind outside screamed through the trees, a sound almost human. The dashboard lights flickered and the radio came alive again, our own voices overlapping in static, replaying every order we'd given since the mission began. I shut it off. Drive until there's nothing left to drive on, I said. We did, and somewhere behind us, the forest began to glow again, the color of memory and mercury. The forest thinned to scrubland, then to asphalt. After hours of driving through nothing but fog and nightmare terrain, the sight of pavement should have felt like salvation. It didn't. It looked too clean, dark, new lines freshly painted, no cracks, no wear, as if the world had pressed reset. Ahead stood the security gate of Fort Lewis. Floodlights burned overhead, humming softly in the twilight. 2 MPs stepped from the guard shack, rifles slung. For a moment they looked normal, until I realized they were both smiling the same too wide smile. Carla whispered, "Ethan, what if it's another projection?" I didn't answer. I rolled the window down. Sergeant Cole, Echo 7, returning from field mission. The taller MP nodded, identical in movement to the other. "Welcome back, Sergeant Cole. Command's expecting you." Their voices overlapped perfectly, like an echo playing half a second behind. Eleanor sat forward. "It's already merged. The field reached here before we did." Carla drew her pistol. "No. We're not walking into that again." Eleanor touched her arm. "If you run, it will follow. If you enter, maybe you can end it." "Maybe," Carla snapped. I looked at the base beyond the gate, rows of barracks, hangars, everything too still. No movement, no wind, just silence. "We finish this," I said, and eased the Humvee forward. The gates opened without a sound. Inside, the base was exactly as we'd left it days ago. Trucks parked neatly, flags unmoving, the air thick with that faint metallic tang. I killed the engine. "Carla, stay close." We entered the command building. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Papers lay on desks, coffee cups half full. It was like everyone had stepped out for a moment and never returned. Then a voice came from the hallway. "Sergeant Cole." I turned. Captain Rhodes stood there, hands clasped behind his back. Expression calm. "You made good time." "Sir, what the hell is going on? The mission site. It wasn't what we were told." Rhodes smiled faintly. "The mission was never about extraction. It was about containment. You did well." Carla stepped forward, weapon raised. "Containment of what?" "The anomaly," Rhodes said. "It spreads through contact, but don't worry. You brought it home safely." Eleanor stiffened. "You knew." Rhodes turned to her. "Doctor, your work continues. Every 70 years, the cycle renews." Then his skin began to ripple, his features melting into static light. The shape beneath looked like glass, like the walls of that valley structure. The hum returned, deep and steady. Carla fired 3 shots. Each bullet struck, and each passed through as if through smoke. Rhodes smiled wider. "You can't kill memory." Eleanor stepped between us, shouting, "Run!" The building shuddered, lights flaring, windows rattled, the air pulsing like a heartbeat. I grabbed Carla's arm and pulled her toward the exit, but Eleanor stayed behind. "Eleanor!" I yelled. She turned, her eyes bright silver. "Someone has to close it." Then she pressed her hands to the floor, and the entire hallway lit up like a flare. The hum became a roar. White light swallowed everything. When I opened my eyes, I was outside. The base looked the same, but the gate behind us was gone. Nothing but empty road stretching into dawn. Carla lay beside me, dazed but breathing. The Humvee was intact, keys still in the ignition. Eleanor was gone. The radio flickered once and died. The silence that followed was absolute. Carla sat up slowly. "Did she do it?" I looked toward the horizon where Fort Lewis had been. Only fog remained. "I don't know," I said, "but something tells me we didn't come back alone." The highway back to Tacoma was empty. No other cars, no birds, no wind. Only the hum of the tires on the asphalt and the low rasp of my own breathing. Every so often, Carla would glance into the rearview mirror, like she expected to see Eleanor walking up the road behind us. Neither of us spoke until we reached the edge of town. The early morning light painted everything gold, the kind of sunrise that's supposed to mean safety. But after what we'd seen, sunlight didn't mean anything anymore. We parked near a diner on the outskirts, the kind of place that's always open for truckers. I sat there with the engine idling, unable to turn it off. Carla broke the silence first. "She's gone," she said. "You saw what happened." "I saw her disappear," I replied. "That's not the same thing." "She sacrificed herself, Ethan, to close whatever that was." I looked out across the street. The air shimmered faintly above the pavement, like heat distortion, even though it was barely 40 degrees. "Then why does it still feel like we're inside it?" Carla followed my gaze. The diner's neon sign flickered on and off rhythmically, almost in sync with the hum in my ears. She exhaled shakily. "You hear it too?" "Yeah." We sat in silence another minute before she said, "We should call command, tell them what happened." "No." Her eyebrows shot up. "What do you mean, no?" "I finally killed the engine. You heard Rhodes, or whatever that thing was. It wanted us to bring it home. If the base is gone, we might be the only ones left. We don't even know who's still human." Carla leaned back in the seat, staring out the window. "So what? We just disappear? Pretend none of this happened?" "That's exactly what I plan to do," I said quietly. Inside, the diner was warm and too bright. The waitress, middle-aged, friendly, smiled as we sat down. "Coffee?" "Please," Carla said, forcing a smile. When the waitress turned, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The name tag on her apron said E. Vaughn, Eleanor's last name. I stared at it until the waitress set down the mugs. She noticed my look and laughed. "Old family name. You military?" "Used to be," I said. She nodded. "My aunt worked for the army once. Scientist, disappeared out near Nevada back in the 90s. Folks still talk about it." Carla's spoon froze halfway to her cup. "What was her first name?" The waitress frowned, thinking, "Eleanor, why?" I felt the blood drain from my face. The woman smiled again, oblivious. "You okay, hun? You look like you've seen a ghost." Carla reached across the table and grabbed my hand under it, squeezing once, a silent warning. Don't react. We ate in silence, though neither of us tasted a thing. Outside, the light changed strange. Too fast, too sharp. When we finally left, I caught a glimpse of the waitress in the window's reflection. Her smile was still there, but her eyes weren't blue anymore. They were silver. We drove for hours after that, west toward the coast, toward whatever might still feel real. The hum in my ears never left. Sometimes it faded, sometimes it swelled. Carla stopped trying to speak over it. We both knew. It was listening. That night, at a cheap motel off of Route 12, I dreamt of Eleanor standing in the desert, her hand raised, light spilling from her skin. Behind her, something enormous and shapeless watched me with thousands of eyes. When I woke, my arm was burning where she'd touched me during the mission, same as before, and on the nightstand beside me was a small brass key, the same one I'd seen in the compound. The key gleamed in the weak light from the street lamp outside, its surface too clean, too perfect. It shouldn't have been there. I'd left everything from the mission, gear, notes, even my dog tags, at Fort Lewis before the explosion. Yet there it was, lying neatly beside the alarm clock, as if someone had placed it there while I slept. Carla was still out cold on the other bed, her breathing steady. I didn't want to wake her. Not yet. I picked up the key and felt the same chill I'd felt in the compound. Not cold from temperature, but something deeper. A vibration that traveled straight into my bones. I turned it over in my hand. It wasn't brass anymore. The metal shimmered between colors. Gold, then silver, then black, like oil on water. When I touched the teeth of the key, I saw something. Not a memory, but a vision. A door, white and cracked with age, standing alone in the middle of a field. Beyond it, endless darkness rippled like water, and in that darkness, a voice, soft, familiar. Ethan. It's not done. I dropped the key. It hit the carpet soundlessly, sinking slightly as if the fibers swallowed it. When I bent to pick it up again, it was gone. The clock on the nightstand flickered. The red digits rearranged themselves, 0303, then they blinked twice and froze. That's when Carla spoke. It's calling to you, isn't it? I turned. She was awake, eyes open, staring at the same spot on the carpet where the key had been. Her voice was calm but distant, like she was speaking from far away. You saw it too? I asked. She nodded. The door in the field. I've been seeing it since we left the valley. What happens if we open it? Carla's gaze didn't waver. We find out who really needed saving. A knock rattled the motel door. 3 short taps, perfectly spaced. We froze. Another knock, same rhythm. I reached for my sidearm. Carla nodded once, silent agreement. I moved to the door and peeked through the peephole. A man stood outside. Civilian clothes, baseball cap, backpack slung over one shoulder. His head tilted slightly as though he knew I was watching. Then he spoke, his voice muffled through the door. Sergeant Cole, you still have something that belongs to her. My stomach dropped. Who are you? He smiled. Somehow I could see the smile even through the distortion of the peephole. A friend. Open the door and I'll explain everything. Carla whispered, Don't. But the man said something else then, something only I could have known. She told me about Fallujah. The world seemed to tilt. My throat went dry. I'd never told Carla, never told anyone. Only Eleanor had known because she'd seen it. I opened the door. The man stepped inside casually like he'd just come home. His face was too smooth, too symmetrical. His eyes silver gray. Not glowing, not alien, but wrong in that uncanny way your mind rejects even as you stare. Eleanor's gone, I said. She died closing that thing. He shook his head. She changed. That's what happens when you cross over and survive. What do you mean, survive? He looked at Carla, then back at me. You think you escaped, Sergeant. You didn't. You carried the exit with you. The light bulb above the bed buzzed, flickered, then popped. For a second, the room plunged into total darkness. When the emergency light came on, the man was gone. Only the brass key remained on the carpet again, glowing faintly. Carla knelt beside it, her hands shaking. It wants you to use it. I stared at the key, its edges pulsing with faint, golden light. And if I do? Carla swallowed hard. Then maybe we finally find out what's on the other side. By morning, we both knew what we had to do. The key hadn't moved all night. It sat on the dresser like it was waiting for us to decide. I could feel its pull in my chest, not like magnetism, but like gravity, something ancient tugging at something buried deep inside me. Carla stood at the window, her hair tied back, eyes fixed on the highway that ran west toward the ocean. You feel it too, don't you? She said. I nodded. Yeah, it's pointing somewhere. Then we follow it, she said. There was no argument left in either of us. We packed what little we had, ammo, water, a few supplies, and left the motel before sunrise. The key glowed faintly in my palm when I turned the truck's ignition, like it was acknowledging the decision. The engine started on the first try. The radio, which hadn't worked since Fort Lewis, crackled to life just long enough to whisper a single word, north. We followed Highway 101 up the coast, past towns still half asleep. The world looked normal again. People at gas stations, fishermen on the docks, sunlight spilling through clouds. But everything felt too quiet. like the background noise of life had been dialed down. Even the gulls didn't cry. After 2 hours, Carla finally broke the silence. You ever wonder if she knew this would happen? Eleanor, I mean. I thought about the way she'd looked back at the base, the calm in her eyes before she'd unleashed that light. Yeah, I said. I think she knew exactly what it would cost. Carla glanced at the key resting on the dashboard. Then she knew it wouldn't end there. The GPS on my phone, which hadn't worked since the mission, blinked on suddenly. The map zoomed itself out, showing a single red marker near the coastline, a blank area labeled Quinault Forest. Restricted access. That's it, I said. Carla frowned. You've been there before? No, but she has. We reached the forest by early afternoon. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt. Fog rolled in thick, swallowing the sun. The key pulsed faster now, matching my heartbeat. We parked when the path ended, grabbed our weapons, and continued on foot. The forest was silent. No birds, no insects, just the crunch of leaves under our boots. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. The air had weight to it, like walking underwater. Every sound came muffled and slow. Then through the fog, we saw it. A door, standing upright in the middle of a clearing, white paint peeling, brass handle shining faintly. No walls, no frame, just the door, the same one I'd seen in my vision. Carla's breath caught. This is it. I stepped closer, holding up the key. The hum grew louder, deep enough to vibrate my teeth. The closer I got, the more my skin burned. Same place Martha, the entity, had touched me months ago. Carla's hand gripped my arm. Before you open that, if this goes wrong, it already did, I said softly. I slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, like it had been waiting for decades. The door swung open. Behind it wasn't darkness this time. It was light. Blinding, endless light that pulsed like a living thing. In it, I saw shapes moving, tall and thin, like people made of glass. Voices layered over each other in whispers that weren't words but still somehow made sense. Carla shielded her eyes. Ethan, what do you see? I couldn't answer, because in the light I saw Eleanor. She stood on the other side, her outline shimmering. Her eyes weren't silver anymore. They were gold. She smiled sadly. You shouldn't have come, she said. Her voice was inside my head, soft but heavy. You brought it with you. I tried to step forward, but she raised her hand. Don't. If you cross, it follows. Then how do we end it? I shouted. She looked at me with something like sorrow. By remembering what it wanted. The ground shook. The light brightened until it felt like it would tear the world apart. Carla screamed my name. And then everything went white. When the white light cleared, I was standing alone in the clearing. The door was gone. Carla was gone. The forest, too, replaced by an open plain of shifting fog that stretched in every direction. At first, I thought I was dead. Then I heard the hum again. Deep, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Eleanor, I called. Her voice came from behind me. You never left, Ethan. I turned. She stood a few feet away, barefoot, dressed in the same white uniform she'd worn in the facility. But she wasn't solid. The air behind her shimmered through her body, like she was made of glass filled with light. This is the echo, she said softly. The space between moments. You brought the key, which means it chose you. What is it? I asked. What did we bring back? She hesitated, eyes distant. We called it a resonance field because we needed a name. But names make things small, controllable. This isn't energy, it's memory. The earth remembers every thought, every sound, every death. We built a way to hear it, and in doing so, we woke it. I shook my head. You're telling me the planet itself is alive? Not alive, she said, aware and lonely. Her words hung there, heavy and absurd, except they didn't feel absurd. The hum under my feet felt like a heartbeat. You said it wanted something. It wants connection, Eleanor said. It uses memory, guilt, grief, the things we bury, to pull us in. When you feel it, you think you're haunted. But it's only trying to remember what it feels like to be human. My throat tightened. And what happens when it remembers? Her golden eyes flicked to the horizon, where shapes were gathering. Tall, translucent figures like the ones I'd seen inside the light. Then the echo becomes the world. It doesn't destroy, it replaces. A surge of panic hit me. We have to stop it. Eleanor smiled sadly. You can't stop a memory from existing, but you can stop feeding it. She stepped closer, close enough that her voice dropped to a whisper. You still carry it inside you. The field, the guilt, the connection. That's why it followed you. You're the bridge now, Ethan. If you close the door, it closes with you. I stared at her. You want me to die? I want you to choose, she said. If you stay here, it ends. If you go back, it spreads. For a long time, neither of us moved. Then I heard another voice, faint, distant, familiar. Carla. Ethan, don't listen to it. Her voice came from somewhere behind me, echoing across the white plain. I turned and saw her, still in the clearing, kneeling in front of the open doorway. From her side, I was still standing at the threshold, frozen mid-step. Eleanor's gone, she shouted. That thing's using her image. You have to come back. I looked at the figure in front of me. Eleanor's expression didn't change. If you go, it lives, she said softly. If you stay, they're free. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the air until it hurt. I closed my eyes. The door had always been about choice, rescue or damnation, faith or guilt. I thought about Dylan, Mason, all the lives swallowed by the echo. And I thought about Carla, the only one still holding on to what was real. When I opened my eyes, I met Eleanor's gaze. Tell it, it can have me, but it doesn't get her. She smiled, proud, maybe relieved. Then it remembers compassion. Light flared again, swallowing everything. For a moment, I felt weightless. No pain, no fear, only stillness. Then silence. Somewhere far away, a door closed. I came to on a hospital bed, sunlight cutting across white sheets. The first thing I heard was the soft beep of a heart monitor, steady and calm. The second was Carla's voice. Hey, she whispered, you're back. Her face was pale, tired, but real. No shimmer, no silver in her eyes. For a second, I didn't trust it. I reached out, touched her hand. Warm, solid. What happened? I croaked. They found us 2 days ago, she said. Search and rescue chopper out of Spokane. They said the base was gone, just a crater and fog. No radiation, no bodies, nothing. I tried to sit up, pain lancing through my ribs. Eleanor. Carla shook her head. Gone. The word hung in the air, heavy and final. They think we imagined it, she said after a pause. The doctors. Command's been asking questions, but I'm not saying a damn word. They already sent someone else to investigate. My chest tightened. Then it's starting again. Carla squeezed my hand. Maybe not. You stopped it, Ethan. Whatever you did out there, the hum stopped. It's been quiet since. Quiet. The word felt foreign. I listened. No vibration, no whisper under my skin. Just the soft tick of the clock on the wall. For the first time in months, I almost believed her. 2 weeks later, I was discharged. Carla drove me west to a safe house near the coast. Remote, unremarkable, the kind of place the world forgets. The ocean air smelled clean, sharp with salt. At night, I could hear the waves crash like distant thunder. It felt like life trying to start over. We barely talked about what happened. Sometimes she'd look toward the horizon, and I'd know she was thinking about Dylan, Mason, Eleanor, about the door. Then she'd shake it off and change the subject. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the water, Carla handed me a small box. "They gave me your personal effects," she said. "Thought you'd want these back." Inside were my dog tags, a folded photo of our old team, and something else, a small brass key. My pulse quickened, but it didn't glow. It was just metal now, cold and ordinary. I turned it in my fingers, half expecting to feel that pulse again. Nothing. Carla smiled faintly. "Maybe it's just a key now." "Maybe," I said. "We buried it that night in the dunes where the tide would never reach." I didn't pray. I just stood there until the wind covered our footprints. Months passed. The nightmares faded. Life found rhythm again. I worked odd jobs, kept to myself. Sometimes Carla would call from whatever town she'd drifted to next. We never said goodbye, only "see you soon." Then one morning a letter arrived. No return address, just my name in careful handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No words, only coordinates. Nevada desert. And beneath them, drawn in faint gold ink, a door. For a long time I stared at it, feeling nothing. Then faintly the air began to hum. 1 year later, a research convoy crossed the Nevada flats at dawn. Reporters later said it was a geological survey, routine, unclassified. They didn't mention the military escort or the woman in charge, Carla Hayes, now wearing the bars of a lieutenant. The team disappeared for 72 hours. When they returned, their footage showed nothing but sand and wind, except for the last frame, a single brass key half buried in the desert, sunlight glinting off its surface, and the faint sound of breathing in the static. They sent us to rescue her, but who needed saving was us. Or maybe in the end, none of us ever really came back.